Hi there, it's Neil here from Half Empty Brewing, and this is Homebrew Wednesday number 6. I'll be doing some bottling today, but we'll come to that a little bit later. The first thing that I wanted to talk about briefly was, you remember on my last Homebrew Wednesday, I reviewed my own beer that I brewed in the SJPORR Challenge 2014. One of the things I didn't mention was the style of beer that I intended it to be. It was in fact a black IPA. The website to put in your information gave you the option to put in a BJCP style guide, but there wasn't obviously one there for a black IPA, so I left that blank. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that straight. The recipe that I used in fact was from the home beer book, this one, Homebrew Beer, which I'm sure a lot of you have come across. It's got loads of great recipes in it. I've done quite a few of them myself and had pretty good results from it. So the recipe that I used was loosely based on the black IPA recipe within that book. Talking of that book, a link to it in fact, I was shopping around for some more ingredients on the internet yesterday for future brews that I'm going to be doing, and I came across the Brew UK website, which many of you know, certainly the SJPORR people. Brew UK actually sponsored the SJPORR Challenge this year, so thanks to you for that. While I was on the website, I noticed they had a chat facility, and I had a couple of questions to ask. When I connected with the person on the other end, it turned out to be Greg Hughes, who in fact is the author of this book. He obviously has an association with the Brew UK. I think he's one of the co-founders of the business. But Greg was kind enough to give me some good tips and some advice on things that I was asking. One in particular kind of links to my SJPORR review last week. One of the things that was mentioned about my beer was the fact that it maybe just have been a bit too bitter. One of the things that Greg pointed out and suggested that there's a malt that I could use called Black Cauld malt. I haven't actually come across that before. I've got some quick little notes here, but basically it's a substitute, I would guess, for the Carafa 3 that I used, and it basically gives a mild roast malt flavour, obviously given the dark brown or black colour, but more importantly there's no bitter, astringent or dry flavours or aftertastes associated with this malt. So it sounds like a good tip that I'll probably use when I rebrew that beer again. Whilst it's only fair to point out that there are other homebrew shops available, it's worth checking out Brew UK website. It's fairly well stocked homebrew shop. There's obviously some good tips and advice to be had too, and they've also actually updated their website. I think it's a bit more streamlined from what it used to be, so yeah, it's worth checking them out. So thanks to Brew UK for sponsoring the SJPORR Challenge for 2014, and obviously thanks to Greg for your help and advice you gave me yesterday. Cheers. Okay, so now on to the bottling. It's the day that everybody hates. Bottling beer is not the greatest job, but it has to be done. I only bottle my beers, so I don't have any corny kegs or anything like that. I actually do have like a rotor keg pressure barrel, but I haven't actually used that yet. Maybe do that for a brew for Christmas. But yeah, mainly bottling for me. So as you know from previous Homebrew Wednesdays, I'm doing 2 lagers at the moment. There's a Dortmunder export and a traditional Bock, which I've both brewed on the same day, and they've been fermenting and cold crashing and what have you for the past 5 or 6 weeks. So I've got about 80 odd bottles of beer to bottle today. I'll just show you. Obviously there's my bottle tree. Just going to start cleaning the stuff and getting organised. There's some of my bottles. You'll notice that on these I've got these plastic reseals on the top. These bottles have been properly sanitised and cleaned using VWP solution. What I do when they're cleaned and dry, I put these on because I store them in the shed or in the garage, or even in the attic. It stops the bugs and dust and all that getting inside. So all I have to do on bottling day is obviously take them off and I'll sanitise them. What I use for sanitising is this 5-star IO Star sanitizer, which is a iodine based sanitizer. I haven't actually used Star San because we're in a sort of hard water area here, and I've heard that Star San isn't the best with hard water. But having said that, maybe you think otherwise. I'd be interested to know what you think about using Star San in hard water areas. Do you have any problems with it, what have you? Anyway, this 5-star IO Star sanitizer has been great. Haven't had any problems with it at all. As you can see, it lasts well. I've had this bottle for 12 months now. I've probably got about another 6 months left to go with that, so it's pretty good value as well. Got my solution all made up, so I'm going to start sanitising these bottles. I've got a few in here that are soaking in WVP solution. They'll need to be rinsed and ready to go. So I think for the rest of this Homebrew Wednesday, it will just be snippets of me going through my bottling process, and I'll give you the odd update and a taste test here and there as it goes along. Okay? Okay, so now it's time to start racking off the Dortmunder export into my bottling bucket. I'll just quickly show you what I've got here. So I just have a standard bottling bucket. It's like a fermenter unit with a spigot on the end. You'll see me doing a bit of bottling later, but I won't bore you too much with that. And then here's the Dortmunder export. It looks pretty clear and it smells wonderful. The way I do my bottling is I batch prime. So rather than bottling it straight from the fermenter, I put some sugar solution into the bottom of the bucket, then siphon the beer onto the sugar solution, and then gently mix that in, and then it's all ready to go. Every bottle should be consistently carbonated then. I haven't had any trouble with that process, so I'll stick with that. Okay, so I've started the siphoning. There's the beer going out into the siphon bucket, bottling bucket. And then if you take a look at this, how clear does that look, eh? Excellent. Right, we'll take that downstairs, do a gravity test and a taste test. Hi, yeah, just thought I'd mention my method for batch priming. Basically, I use a website called Brewer's Friend that you may have heard of, which helps me calculate how much corn sugar to use when I'm batch priming. I get about 400 ml or so of water, boil it up in a pan, and then dissolve the sugar into that, boil it for about 5 minutes, and just let it cool down, obviously, until it's the temperature of the beer that I'm about to bottle. So that goes in the bottling bucket. Siphon the beer on top of that, and then I gently stir it with a spoon, so as not to introduce any oxygen into it, and obviously that helps the sugar solution spread evenly throughout the beer. As I said before, I've been perfectly happy. All my bottles have been consistently carbonated the way I want it. So back to the Dortmunder export. I've just done a gravity reading now. Probably won't be able to see on there, but it's about 1.09. No, it doesn't look like it's going to focus. It's actually fermented much more than I was planning. The recipe suggested it would finish about 10-15, but looking back, it's probably down to the yeast that I've used. I've used a fermentis lager yeast there. I'll just have a look at my notes. Yeah, so a W3470 lager yeast that I've used. I think the recipe that I was working from said a Y yeast Bohemian lager. Yeah, Y yeast 2124 Bohemian lager. So I'm guessing that perhaps wasn't going to ferment out as much. So I've ended up with about a 6.5% beer instead of about a 5.5%. But as you can see, it looks pretty good anyway. On the subject of yeasts, I've done all my brewing at the moment with dry yeast, mainly fermentis yeast, SO4, USO5. I've done a couple of their speciality yeasts as well, and along with Nottingham and Windsor yeast I've used before. I'd like to get into the the smack packs, the Y yeast varieties, because there's obviously a lot more choice available. But I want to learn how to reuse the yeast afterwards, so that will be a project that I'm going to work on in the future, because obviously if you can reuse a yeast, then you're going to get more value out of your purchase. If you can get 2 or 3 shots out of one yeast, then you've definitely got your money's worth. I don't think dry yeasts are suitable for reusing anyway, so I haven't tried that yet. So let's do a taste test on here. I'll take the old hydrometer out. And let's see. Well, there's absolutely no doubt, you can see from there, that is as clear as a bell. I'm well chuffed with that. Let's give it a taste and a smell. Quite clean, no off smells, quite floral really, almost a sweet aroma, but yeah, very clean. Taste wise, I did taste it earlier actually, but it's lovely. It's got a sweetness to it, obviously a bit dead without the carbonation. I think once that's carved up in a few weeks time, that will be excellent, so I'll bring a proper taste test when it's ready. Okay, so now on to the worst bit. I've got 40 odd bottles to do here, and then on to the traditional Bock. Okay, so I'll carry on and we'll catch you later. Cheers. Okay, so what I'm doing in here, if you haven't seen the bottling before, it's just a bottling stick. You just shove the bottle on the bottom, there's a little valve that opens up and fills up your bottle. You stop it just before the top, just to leave a little bit of space between the top of the beer and the cap. And then what I do I just sit my caps on top of the bottle and leave them there until I finish bottling. So take a sterilised cap, put it on the top, and then what happens is the sugar solution that's been mixed into the beer will start reacting and carbon dioxide will begin to be created, and it just pops the cap up, and that helps push the oxygen out of the bottle as well. So I'll leave that until I've done all the bottling. That should be sufficient time to have pushed out all the oxygen, and I'll just get my capper and just cap all the bottles. Job done. Okay, that's it. 43 bottles of Dortmunder Export, all ready to go in the fridge. Now to move on to the traditional Bock. I won't go through the same process with that. I'll probably give you a quick gravity test and have a taste and see what it's like. But carry on, more bottling to do. Cheers for now. Hi there again, I'm back with a taste and gravity test of the traditional Bock. I've tested the gravity, you can have a quick look, I don't know if you can see, but it's come out about 1010. Again, I think as a result of the Fermentis 3470 yeast, I used the same yeast in this brew. It's the gravity is a lot lower than was planned. Because obviously I'm not using the Bohemian yeast that they suggested would end at about 10-15. So consequently the ABV has turned out as 7.6, which again is about, well, it was planning to be 6.5, so it's a little bit over. But again, you can see that it's it looks pretty good. Let's put it in a glass and have a quick taste test. Pretty good, eh? So it's a much darker than the Dortmunder Export, but still very clear. Let's go for the aroma. Pretty much like the other one, I would say. Sort of fruity, floral, sort of bit spicy perhaps. But no off aromas, nothing to worry about. Taste. A much richer flavour, a bit maltier. To remind myself what I put in that actually. So we've got Maris Otter, Munich Malt, Carapils and Special B. So I think 2 successful brews there, I would like to think. Again, once it's carbonated up, I'll give it time to condition for about 3 weeks or so, and then we'll do a proper taste test and I'll show you how it all turned out. Okay, that's going to conclude my bottling day. I'm not going to go through the whole lot again and show you what I did with this one. But cheers for now. Okay, that's the end of my bottling day. I'm all bottled out. I'll just show you my fermentinator. Well, it's currently 18 degrees, but I've set it for 12, which is what I'm going to condition my lagers at. So we've now turned it from a fermentinator into a conditioning fridge. There's the beer in there. It's about 80 odd bottles. I'm not sure how long the beer will actually stay in there for, because I want to put some more fermenting vessels in there with my next brew, so I might get about a week in there anyway. Next week's Homebrew Wednesday, I might have some footage of a brew that I'm doing. I'm not going to go into much detail because you've all seen the brewing before, but I'll show you what I'm doing. I was thinking of an Imperial Stout, but I'm not going to get it ready for Christmas, so I think I'll probably just some sort of Christmas ale, maybe about 7%, something like that. But it's going to have a bit of spice in it, a bit of nutmeg and cinnamon, that kind of thing. Although I might also do an oatmeal stout. I haven't done one of them before, so quite fancy trying my hand at that. So that'll be next week's Homebrew Wednesday. In a couple of weeks' time, I might have some on-location footage for you, because next week happens to be the Nottingham Robin Hood Beer Festival. I've been to the Nottingham Beer Festival for the past few years now. It's a really good day out. I should be going Thursday afternoon, so if any of you happen to be there Thursday, drop me a line and maybe we could meet up and have a drink and a chat. So maybe the following week in Homebrew Wednesday I might have a bit of footage from that festival. No, it's not directly homebrew related, but nonetheless it's real ale, so we all like to talk about beer anyway. So that's it for this Homebrew Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.